everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate you. So looking at this in the viewfinder right now, I did not compute that the black in my shirt would blend in with the black of my chair. So I do kind of just look like a floating head today, and I'm sorry for that, but I don't feel like changing. So here we are. Today we're going to be talking about something that is Gorlworld adjacent, and that's a Gorlworld commentary reaction channel called Rachel, because there's been a lot of like drama surrounding her recently, and I feel like it also kind of just opens up a bigger conversation about the Gorlworld reaction commentary sphere as a whole, which like I know I am a part of sometimes, but like I found it really interesting to kind of witness. And I've just been like, I need to talk about this. We're going to be talking about it. Another reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I have been prepping, and it's coming this month, my very long-awaited Gorlworld catch-up, which is now going to be called the 2025 Gorlworld History Lesson. So buckle in for that. That's coming this month. I had been using Rachel as kind of like a source-ish of just various events like throughout the year and stuff that I wanted to include in the history lesson. And I knew I was probably going to mention her as like a person that I went to for that. Just like a timeline kind of thing. And so I wanted to talk about this before that video came out, so it doesn't all have to be part of the history lesson, because I think if I did not talk about it at all in regards to Gorlworld in 2025, it would be a big mistake. So yeah, that's also why we're talking about it today. But yeah, get comfy, grab a snack if you want, get a drink, any kind that you feel like, because there's a lot of information and this is kind of a doozy. So yeah, just buckle up and get comfortable, okay? Now, I don't know about you, but going into 2026 and beyond, saving more money and paying off more debt are my two main money goals. Today's video sponsor, Rocket Money, is going to help me do just that. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel and manage subscriptions, lower bills, and overall just manage your money better. Finances have always been kind of a sore topic for me and have always made me feel very overwhelmed, like I think they do for a lot of people. And Rocket Money truly just lays everything out and helps me plan and sort things in a way that I understand and that also doesn't make me feel overwhelmed. For canceling your subscriptions, once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money will identify all your subscriptions and put them all in a single list. From there, you select all the ones you don't want, and Rocket Money may just be able to help you cancel the ones that you don't want anymore. I'll never forget, like a couple years ago, okay, Rocket Money helped me cancel an unwanted New York Times subscription, because sometimes I just like rack up subscriptions for especially like newspapers and things like that for when I'm scripting videos and I need to subscribe to something to be able to see articles. And they were able to help me unsubscribe from the New York Times, which I've heard is famously very difficult to do on your own. And so I'm still so grateful for helping me with that. And for savings goals, Rocket Money automatically analyzes your accounts, determine the optimal time to save so that you can get to your savings goals faster. Choose your savings goal, pick a frequency that works for you, and watch your savings start to grow. And you can edit, pause, withdraw these things at any time. So if you want to give Rocket Money a whirl for yourself, be sure to use the link down below in my description or scan the QR code that is on the screen right now to take control of your finances today. Once again, that's go to rocketmoney.com/MeganAnn. That's rocketmoney.com/MEGANANNE, or just scan the QR code that's on the screen right now to join the over 10 million users using Rocket Money today. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video, and as always, thank you so much to you guys for continuing to interact with my content so that brands like Rocket Money want to work with me, because it truly helps me more than I will ever be able to describe to you. And yeah, let's just get back into the video. So if you don't know who Rachel is, she is a Gorlworld commentary reaction channel. She primarily, I think she kind of like caught her stride mainly this year, because scrolling back on her channel, it looks like she talked a lot about like piercing content. I know she talked about crocheting a lot, which like I'm a crochet girly too, so I can appreciate that. And it looks like she also like delved into like book reviews and things like that as well. But her first video on Amber Lynn, as far as I could tell, was posted about 11 months ago, and it definitely performed better than the other videos she had been posting before then. And so naturally she niched down, which like I can't blame her for. I've done the same thing, right? And so then after that, primarily she was posting Amberlynn, Reed, or just Gorlworld adjacent content. I know she's covered people like Glitter and Lasers and stuff too. And maybe Chantal, I don't know, but she also has talked about like Trisha Paytas and stuff, but primarily Amberlynn Reed, Gorlworld content. Another thing that you should know about her Gorlworld content is that she posted very heavily about Amberlynn's relationship with Emily, or which is what I'm going to be calling her for the rest of this video because that's her name. But Amberlynn referred to her as Tommy throughout the course of their relationship. And she was very critical of Emily, which I think a lot of us who were talking about it at the time were. And if you want more, I guess, details about Amberlynn and Emily's relationship, I have a lot of videos talking about that. So I think I have a playlist of all my Amberlynn videos. If I don't, I'll make one and I'll put it down below. But yeah, she posted very heavily about Emily and Amberlynn's relationship. And this will all be covered in the 2025 Gorlworld history lesson. But right now there's a lot of drama, I guess. That feels like a very light term for what it actually is. Surrounding Emily and Amberlynn's relationship, and a lot of it has to do with Emily contacting reaction channels in like DMs on Instagram and things like that to try and get her story out about what it was like being with Amberlynn. Something you need to know about Emily is that it was kind of basically confirmed that she was a feeder, which means that she got pleasure from feeding her super morbidly obese partners to the point of like immobility and things like that. And so that's something that I talked a lot about in my videos regarding Amberlynn and Emily, because it was just a very sticky situation. Okay, but recently Emily has been reaching out to reaction channels, trying to get them to share her story regarding being with Amberlynn for an extended period of time in a romantic way. And one of these reaction channels that she reached out to was Rachel, and Rachel then proceeded to post a video about these things, and it included a voice memo from Emily, and which she said that she initially had Emily's consent to include in the video, but then after that video was posted and then subsequently like people started talking about that voice memo and stuff like that, there's a lot of hubbub surrounding privacy and all of that kind of stuff. So Rachel then at the time privated the video, and she posted on her community tab saying, "Hi all, Emily has withdrawn consent for her voice to be used on my channel. To avoid any future issues or privacy concerns, I have privated my previous video. Many thanks for the continued support of my channel." And that was kind of all we heard about it at that point. I do think she was getting a ton of pushback for privating that video. So then like a few days later, she posted a much longer community tab post, kind of giving more context into what had happened with that whole video and the voice note and stuff like that. So I'll read that here. Guys, I'm exposing my own fuck up below for transparency. Obviously, there was a fair bit of context which I left out of my last post after I privated my last video with Emily's voice note. Basically, Emily gave me the voice note, screenshots, and a clip, which I ended up not using. It was not the rage video. I had consent to use them with no strings attached. Prior to this, Emily had told me some pretty damning information about Amber owing her lots of money for the trip they took where Emily drove Amber home. I wanted the receipts for this pretty bad, but I didn't think it was something Emily would be super keen on sharing, so I very stupidly offered Emily that if she was willing to give me these receipts, I would split the AdSense on that separate finance-related video with her. Later, once the voice note video was well underway, Emily asked me if we could just split the AdSense from the voice note video instead of the finance one, as she felt it made no difference. I, again stupidly, said yes, thinking, well, we were going to split the finance video anyway, so it really makes no difference if we had just split this one instead. It is essential to note that Emily had already given me consent to use the voice note prior to this rearrangement of which video we would split. She also never sent me the finance receipts she had mentioned. She did not let me use the voice note because of any money. She had already said yes to this, and then the agreement was quote unquote transferred. I then became very suspicious that Emily and Amber were talking again. Amber deleted her lives, posted that statement, and it was clear that Emily and Amber were not done with each other. I thought, despite her shitty character, that receipts coming from Emily were still valuable, and showing these did not mean I was defending her. However, it became clear to me that my good intentions were being taken for granted, that Emily did not just want to provide receipts, but in fact she viewed my videos as payback to Amber for their own personal dramas. I was not being comfortable used as a pawn in their wider game. Therefore decided that there was no way on earth that I was going to pay this person to make me look like a mug. I told her as much, told her I would happily donate this portion to charity instead so that I would not benefit from this decision. She got very angry, suddenly blamed my video for her being, quote, harassed, despite having been okay with it prior. She did not want the money to go to charity, she wanted to be paid. She tried to make it sound like she had not given me consent to use the voice note already. She had, and I can prove it. And she gave me an ultimatum to pay her or to take my video down. I wasn't paying her, so I took the video down. It is now back up. I acknowledged that I was an absolute fucking idiot for offering her money under any circumstances, and that it was also wrong to do so, and then changed my mind afterwards. At the same time, there is absolutely no way that I could, in good faith to my audience, allow a single penny of that AdSense money from your viewership to go to Emily when it was clear that she was enjoying these weird mind games between herself and Amber. Viewed videos made by me as, quote, punishment to Amber. This was icky to me. I wanted receipts, that was all. I was mad about Amber still owing Beck the inheritance money, and I wanted everyone to know that Amber had financially screwed over another ex, and therefore I made an offer I shouldn't have made, and realized it was a mistake too late. I understand if people are mad at me for this. The portion offered to Emily will instead go to charity on or around November 26th. I will post the donation receipt here. Emily's response to this situation proved that my intuition was right. Her intention was never to get her story out as a DV, quote, victim, and I was wearing some serious rose gold glasses in pursuit of the receipts. Sorry for being a twat. I did get some interesting receipts though. Please see this Venmo below where Amber was blocked on all platforms, so sent Emily $1 because she wanted her to answer the phone at 1 a.m. Speak soon. So basically in this community tab post, the main thing we need to take away for the purpose of this video is that Rachel paid Emily, someone who she used to be very critical of and not like the majority of us who were following that whole situation. She offered to pay Emily for receipts or tea or whatever. And so that's all we needed to really gather from that. Besides the fact that Rachel did admit that it was stupid, and I can appreciate that. So people were commenting on that community tab post overwhelmingly that like they felt like those that the money that she was going to donate to charity, which she was originally going to give to Emily, should go to Beck. In the video that Rachel posted after that super long community tab post, she then right in the beginning said that the money that she was going to give to Emily and then to charity would now be going to Beck. It's worth noting that that video where she says that the money that she was going to give to charity is now going to Beck was posted on October 31st, Halloween. But then screenshots were leaked from a Discord chat on October 23rd, where she says things such as replying to someone saying, "So are you going to give the money to Beck?" The comments were pretty overwhelmingly in favor of that. And she says, "I don't think so, TBH. Feels wrong. I can't explain why. But I can see how it's a huge fuck you to them both. So I can see the appeal. I might do a poll and then blame it on that. I don't know. But the poll would be Beck. So I've got time to think on it. If I do charity, I can write it off on my taxes. Haha." Someone else says, "I think that's the best, TBH." Rachel says, "It feels cleaner." And someone else says, "I don't understand why people even suggested it until I reread the statement a second time. But both from an accounts and moral point of view, I think a charity with a registered charity number is best." Rachel says, "I don't know why, I lean this way also, but there's something satisfying and petty about giving it to Beck, haha, I'll think about it." So I think a lot of people, myself included, saw this video, these messages being like, well, I could write it off on my taxes if I gave it to charity, so I'm not going to give it to Beck, as like very icky, because she was the one that roped Beck into any of this at all, which if you don't know, Beck is one of Amberlynn's other exes, who Amberlynn famously treated very, very badly on her channel and through the course of their relationship, okay, and has come out sharing their experiences on their own channel and everything, and has also recently been posting a lot about going through some very serious and very scary medical issues. Regarding the "it feels cleaner" aspect of that also just feels disingenuous, because she was gonna give it to Emily in the first place. And given her views and just the community as a whole views surrounding Emily, I don't really think that really felt any cleaner than giving it to Beck would have. I personally just think after deciding she wasn't gonna give the money to Emily, I don't really know if she wanted to give it to anybody at all. And I don't like putting words into people's mouths or feelings into people's heads or whatever, but like just reading those Discord messages and then also seeing just like how vague the message was that she sent to Beck about sending her the money. It was like, it was something along the lines of like, "Hey Beck, I'm an Amberlynn Reid commentary reaction channel. There's something I want to talk to you about." Like that was all, no mention of money at all. And so I think that combined with just those Discord messages, I just don't know if she ever really wanted to give the money away at all after deciding she wasn't going to give it to Emily. And yeah, that's my opinion. Okay. Either way, regarding all this, she posted the receipts. The money was sent to Beck. And at the end of the day, I'm happy Beck got the money because this will come up later, but Amberlynn very famously owes Beck a lot of money that Beck got from their mother dying that somehow Amberlynn got her hands on and never paid Beck back after they broke up. That'll all be covered in the history lesson. And so at the end of the day, I'm just happy Beck got their money. Because I think the main reason that the bringing of Beck into all of this at all felt so icky is because recent health stuff aside, before all of that, Beck had been so vocal about like not wanting Amberlynn to talk about them, and had also been very pick and choosy about how they shared their story with what happened to Amberlynn and where. And basically just like not wanting to be in everybody's mouths all the time. Rachel using Beck as like an excuse to offer to pay Emily to get this story. And I think she also did that when she messaged Emily about it too, initially. It's like, why was Beck even brought up in any of this at all when they have been so vocal about not wanting to be included in like any of this? So I'm happy that Beck at least got money out of this. And it was like, I think it was like over like $4,000 or something like that. But still, the bringing in of Beck to everything just felt very icky to me and very kind of manipulative to me in a way for like Rachel to write off this like big fuck up, as she said it was herself. And also just the offering to pay Emily money thing as a whole was just a very weird overstep to me. And we'll talk about that later, but yeah. Hi, editing Megan here. I'm going to be popping in here now throughout this video because since I filmed, some more things have come out and other things have happened and whatever. I just forgot to mention, and I've seen this sentiment echoed by other creators who have talked about this whole situation, that like by offering Emily money, Rachel then put into question the validity of anything that Emily said afterwards, because like who's to say that Emily isn't just gonna lie to get paid? I just don't understand how Rachel thought, I don't understand how she blindly trusted Emily after offering her money that the tea or receipts that she was gonna get were gonna be like true stories, you know what I mean? And because since then, some of the voice notes have been leaked around the creators who were in that Discord server with Rachel and also just around. And some of the stuff that she talks about Amberlynn is stuff that other exes have talked about. And like, you wouldn't have to dig that far to find out happened, like on the internet. And so it's like, these things could be true, but she could also just be echoing things that other exes actually experienced just to get money. And I know she never got the money, but like these were sent to Rachel, I believe, with the expectation that she was going to get paid after the video was posted. And so, yeah, I just think like even anything now that comes out that Emily said, I think should be taken with a grain of salt, because she was saying all of these things with the expectation that she was going to get paid. And yeah, so that's the first thing, little edit that I wanted to put in here, but I'm going to pop in a few more times and I will talk to you then. Okay, bye. So if offering to pay for tea/receipts wasn't enough, I believe it was Charlie Gold, I could be wrong on that, leaked more Discord screenshots that were sent to her where Rachel admits to flirting with Emily, Amberlynn's ex, for quote tea. I couldn't find this screenshot on my own, so I had to like take it from a video that Zachary Michael did on all of this. But the screenshot about her flirting reads, "She sent me a video of her smoking. Someone else says that's weird. Another person said, oh, that feels like her dipping the toe into video calling." And Rachel says, "I flirted a little, not gonna lie. I wanted the tea." Someone else says, delicious cancer stick in an ashtray mouth, delicious. And Rachel goes, "I got a bit uncomfortable, not gonna lie. I'm a big old flirt and she took the bait, but that's how I got the tea." So, but then there was another screenshot and I don't know if this was part of the same conversation. I've tried looking at like timestamps and it looks like it was before the flirting messages were sent. But basically like the whole, like this screenshot ends with her saying, "I simp for money, literally. Did people think I was gonna get the best tea in Gorlworld for months and not have to get a bit muddy? Ha ha ha." And so I think that last message kind of like proves where her mind was at with like doing these things to get the money or to get the tea or receipts or whatever. And I think these were all of the screenshots that we had of Rachel like openly admitting to flirting with Emily to get receipts and tea and all of that, which we are going to get to that verbiage later, don't you worry. But after all of this stuff started circulating around the internet, Rachel made her own video called "Exposing Everything" with receipts. And I don't think it was very successful. But I also think it was already kind of doomed from the start because of how Gorlworld is with people that they have deemed lol cows and things like that, which a lot of people are saying like this is like the reactor to lol cow pipeline and whatever. It's also worth noting that in between all of these screenshots being leaked and then Rachel making her video, there are also a lot of examples of Rachel being smug or just flat out rude to people who were reaching out to her, asking her about all of this stuff. And she's also been like commenting on other videos made about the whole situation and being very smug and condescending about it. And so that didn't really help her case either. But I wanted to watch her video. I wanted to hear her out. I wanted to talk about some key points through it that I just found interesting. In the beginning of this video, the first thing that she starts talking, or the first thing that she decides to address, are these screenshots from Discord.
So we've had loads and loads of messages and people talking about this Discord. So it's absolutely true. There was a private Discord, which consisted of a few people, and all of us trusted each other very well, and we were friends, and we were all talking about Gorlworld related stuff. There was all kinds of stuff in that Discord, some very interesting, juicy tea, which still hasn't come out yet, just to be clear. So for everyone who's been wondering, I did not share everything I got at all. And some of that stuff went in that Discord. That Discord was a place where we chatted like mates. I'm sure you've all got mates. You run your mouth with your mates in a way that you wouldn't do on your public YouTube channel. But of course it got out and everything that you guys have seen has been seen.
I think honestly, the whole concept as a public figure, thinking that any conversation you have online with people is going to be kept private, like just assuming that, is silly and naive. And I'm not saying that to be rude, it's just it is something that you have to like learn as a regular person who does become a public figure, especially in a community like the Amberlynn Reid reaction commentary Gorlworld community, right? And so I'm not necessarily like saying Rachel's stupid for thinking that by any means, because it is just something you have to learn. But like when you are a public figure, you need to move about conversations that can be documented and traced back to you very, very delicately, especially on Discord of all places. And yeah, she says that someone who, quote, doesn't have a fucking backbone, who was in that group chat, decided to take the screenshots and leak them to someone instead of talking to her about disagreeing with her opinion first. And then those were sent to another creator who, again, I believe is Charlie Gold. Forgive me if I'm incorrect on that. Finding like where these all came from was very difficult. So I'm sorry if I missed that part of all of this. And I have my iPad here with notes on it, so if I'm looking down, that's why. But
somebody who was in that Discord has no fucking backbone, didn't want to tell me that they disagreed with my takes, and instead screenshotted a load of the Discord and sent those screenshots out. They then sent all of those screenshots to someone who then shared some of that stuff. That person did not blur the face and name of some of the individuals in those screenshots who are not public figures, which I'm really angry about, because some of those people have all kinds of personal stuff going on in their lives. They don't want their faces and names to be made public, and yet they were. It takes 2 seconds to blur somebody's face in a screenshot, so I think that's really fucking poor, to be honest, if I'm being honest about it. But anyway, that's, you know, whatever, that happened, so the screenshots got out.
Also says that she was upset that the initial like leaker of these screenshots didn't blur out names and faces of people in that group who weren't public figures, for the sake of their own privacy. I can understand that frustration, because if they're not public figures, then like, yeah, that is like something that the person should have done. And also personally, as just a human, I think that leaking screenshots of what people believe to be a private conversation is just kind of icky in general, unless it's like actually like incriminating, you know what I mean? But also I think her phrasing it this way and starting the entire conversation about these screenshots this way just feels like a way to deflect criticism on her end. And so like, I understand the frustration for the privacy aspect of it for the people who aren't public figures, but like also like, girl, I don't know. It just felt like a way to deflect criticism and all of that to me as an outsider looking in. Thing I didn't really cover before was when she was getting flack for, I believe, when she came out admitting that she offered to pay Emily for information. We were in the same group chat that wound up getting leaked from Discord. She basically said like, oh, well, like, I'll just be wiping my face with banknotes or whatever, basically insinuating like, I don't care about the criticism. I'm making a lot of money from this anyway. She does admit that that was like a shitty thing to say. Regarding giving the money from that video to Beck, she says something about how it felt icky to her initially to take money made from sharing someone else's DV story and giving it to someone else.
When I made my community post, all those top comments were people saying, give the money to Beck, give the money to Beck. And I was like, that feels icky, because if I'm taking money that I got by sharing somebody else's DV story and then I give it to Beck, that just felt strange to me. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to fucking lie about that. At first, this is on the 23rd of October when I was having this conversation, I was like, is Beck even going to want that money? Is that going to make Beck feel uncomfortable? Do I actually want to give money from one ex to a different ex? It all just felt a bit icky. I was very conscious. I was in the mud, and I was like, is this just flinging further mud? Just putting myself more into the situation, and I didn't want to do it. I felt really uncomfortable. Hi, me again. So this is the screenshot you can see on the right hand side here. This is you'll see in a second. When I was actually filming this script, I hadn't grabbed these screenshots yet, which is why I keep having to get myself editing Rachel to come in and talk about this. But you can see on the right hand side there, that's the conversation I was having, and this is the part of the Discord where I was discussing what to do. Should I give it to Beck? Should I give it to a charity? And I explain here that I feel uncomfortable, and you can see there's a message where I say it feels cleaner to give it to charity. That's what I'm referring to there. It just felt like I was getting even more entangled by giving the money to Beck. This is before I had gone through the thought process and changed my mind. Just to be really clear, the date is very visible on the screenshot. You can see this is prior to me making the video that I made later, where I told everyone, oh no, I've actually made the decision, and in a minute I'll tell you more about how I came to that decision. And if you look at the bottom of this screenshot here, you can see the last message is me saying I'll think about it, which I absolutely did go on to do, because obviously I changed my mind. You can also see the timestamp on this screenshot says 7:30, so this is like an hour before the comment about wiping my tears with banknotes, and by the time we got to that part of the conversation, the topic had completely changed and was not about Beck whatsoever. Just to make it very clear to everyone, although these were on the same Discord, the two messages were completely unrelated.
When to like her, what she said in the video about all of that, I just have to ask, like, if that's what you were genuinely thinking, then like, why didn't you say that in the group chat if you thought it was private and you were divulging this information and like your thought processes and stuff? Why did you use taxes as an excuse? And why did you end that conversation by saying there's something satisfying and petty to Amberlynn and Emily by giving the money to Beck? If you were actually thinking that it felt unethical to give the money made from someone else's DV story to someone else, why didn't you just say that? Because to me, that's like a very valid thought process. And she goes on to say that what made her eventually change her mind and give the money to Beck is that a lot of the comments were echoing what a lot of people were thinking and saying, in that you brought Beck into this when they were nowhere to be included any of this conversation to begin with. And since Beck was used as a reason to wanting to pay Emily to share her story, then she understood why people thought that that money should go to Beck, and that's ultimately what she did.
The reason that it made sense, and this is why I changed my mind, and this is the main reason I changed my mind. I saw this comment. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. If I can find it, I'll put it here. I may not be able to, but somebody said, you mentioned Beck as one of your reasons for offering Emily money in the first place, and that is why you should give it to Beck, because you literally mention Beck in this post. And I was like, you're totally right, I do. In the post, and when I made this initial offer to Emily about the finance video, I say to her, this will be so fucking good because it will help other exes who've been screwed over financially by Amber, because like Beck, for example, who is owed the inheritance money back. So my impetus for offering Emily this money was so that she would make the finance video with me, send me all of the proof of Amber being a tight ass and all the other stuff, which I never actually got. But the point is that my goal was to kind of help the other exes and be like, guys, look, Beck's not the only one she owes money to. That was my goal, right? So when I read this comment, I was like, oh, yeah, that was what I was trying to do. That was the point of it. And it made me realize, oh, yeah, of course I should give the money to Beck.
And she does say that the tax comment was made before she had gone through the whole thought process on like why the money maybe should go to Beck instead. And which, to that, like, fair play, I say all the time on this channel that it's okay for people to change their minds. And so it would be hypocritical for me to be like, no, that's wrong. And the part where she finally talks about the flirting with Emily to get information, it's the shortest part of this video, and I also think it's kind of maybe the most disappointing part of this video for me anyway, because she says that she thinks this whole situation is, quote, kind of funny. She says that getting the tea and getting receipts is like integral to her making this content that she does in Gorlworld, and she openly admits to all of the flirting.
I wanted the tea. I run a Gorlworld YouTube channel, so getting receipts and proof about one of the girls is super, super valuable to me. It's valuable monetarily, obviously, because I make profit off the videos. All of that stuff is super valuable. My goal is to analyze the girls the best way I possibly can. So in order to do that, I want to see the proof, and I'm not going to lie about that. I absolutely do. And it is completely true that during my texting with Emily, I was much kinder to her than I might have otherwise been. I was much nicer. I was much more jokey. I sent some winky face. Actually, I don't even know if I sent winky faces, but I definitely was somewhat more amenable to her than I could have been, because I wanted her to feel comfortable with me and give me all of the proof, right? I don't think anybody is going to send somebody else like 150 screenshots, videos, various other stuff without you making them feel comfortable. So I describe that as flirting in the Discord, and I probably stand by that. I definitely did flirt with her a little bit. I don't give a fuck about that. I think flirting so that you can make more money is totally normal. People do it when they're bartenders, burlesque dancers, so many different professions. You'll be a bit nicer than you want to be to somebody because you're trying to get ahead in your career. This is one thing that I'm not going to kind of recant on, because I think that flirting with somebody is literally no big deal. I think that people having a huge problem with me flirting with somebody a tiny bit to get more information is like kind of weird. Like, why do you care who I flirted with? Now I understand the argument is that she's a death feeder and that's why I shouldn't have flirted with her. If you saw this alleged flirting, you'd be like, oh, because it was literally nothing. I just personally think that it's no big deal.
When she's talking about this, she says that the main reason that she saw that she shouldn't have flirted with Emily was because to get information was because Emily is a cheater, and like, why would you do that? Which, to a point, I can also understand that, right? And like I said, that is an accusation of Emily that I do tend to lean in favor of, just given the information that we have. I am a very, very sex positive, very kink positive person. Feederism is one that like makes me kind of pause and draw the line, because like, to me, it's someone getting pleasure from actively harming someone else and also actively enabling and feeding someone else's addiction. And I think that in it inherently just makes it unethical. And so I'm not really defending Emily's actions in regards to that at all when I start talking about my feelings about Rachel flirting with Emily. But like, I do think it's safe to say that given Amber Lynn's track record with her previous partners from their own mouths, and just with our own eyes that we can see, and particularly with Beck in the past, I think it's safe to say that Emily and Amber Lynn's relationship was very toxic and most likely mutually abusive. Okay, so like just as Amberlynn was a victim of Emily, which I do believe to a certain extent, I also can believe that Emily was also a victim of Amberlynn. And while yes, being flirtatious to make more money is a very common tactic in the like service industry, in any industry like that, really, like I understand where Rachel was coming from making that point. The difference here is that by Rachel's own words, she considers Emily a DV victim, right? And so to me, to flirt with someone who seemingly is being vulnerable in that moment and wanting to share their story, and is talking about something that probably fucked them up a little bit mentally, right? You flirting with them to get more information about their DV story is so gross. Like, that's so manipulative and so icky. And I don't even like that I am defending Emily here because I don't like Emily, okay? From what we know about her and all of that, I have said in other videos that I do not like Emily and I did not like Emily as a partner for Amber. But Rachel flirting with her and knowing that she was doing that just feels like manipulative, tone deaf, and just icky. And that's the best way I can put it. And I think this all can be summed up too by the fact that Rachel keeps referring to Emily's DV story, which she says it is with her own mouth, interchangeably refers to that as tea and gossip as well. Relaying that sort of information, like DV story, stuff like that, as like in a way to inform people who may not know a lot about Amberlynn and things like that, and to use it as a way to tell people like why they shouldn't support her as a creator or whatever. I think that's one thing, but referring to those stories behind the scenes for one, but then also in your content and to your audience as like tea and receipts just feels very gross to me. I also don't think it's unique to Rachel either, and we'll talk about that at the end of when I start talking about like just my overall feelings on all of this. I think honestly the flirting part of it is more egregious to me than the paying for information aspect of it, but I also think there's a lot of things wrong with offering to pay Emily money for information, and I know she ultimately changed her mind on that, but like it wasn't because she felt like it was the wrong thing to do, it was because she felt like Emily was using her. And so yeah, I don't know, the flirting aspect of this felt like the most manipulative part of it and the most concerning part of all of this to me. There's a whole section where she shares in her video where Rachel shares her conversations with Emily, both before the video was released with Emily's voice note in it and after Rachel decided not to give Emily the money. I'll have Rachel's video linked down below if you want to go watch it so you can get all of that context. Hi, editing me here again, because this is another part where I just want to pop in and say some extra things. In this part of the video where Rachel's going over her messages with Emily, one of the messages that Rachel sent Emily was saying like, hey, I'm about to go into something, so I won't be able to reply for a couple hours. Like, I'm not ignoring you, I just won't be able to reply. And Rachel makes a very big effort in this, while reading this part of the conversation, to say that like the thing that she scratched out or like blurred out in the screenshot is something that's like very private to her and something that she does in her private personal life. And she makes a very big point to say that like if somebody leaked this information or these screenshots without blurring that thing out themselves, that she would be really angry because it's something that's private to her.
And I say, I reply shortly, I'm just about to go into blank and can't reply for a few hours. I'm not ignoring you and I will send a reply. If these screenshots get shared by another party and that word is not blanked out, I am going to be absolutely fucking livid, because that covered up word there is a very private, very personal thing that I do in my spare time. And if that gets out because some person doesn't know how to edit a screenshot, I am going to be, or how to respect somebody else's genuinely private matters that have got nothing to do with the internet, I will be absolutely livid. And so I just hope that whoever shares these screenshots, if they've got, because I know they're out there, if you don't cover up that word, you're just a fucking loser.
And I just think this is very interesting because literally the next video that she posted after the video where she was explaining everything with receipts and all that is a video reacting to a voice note. Actually, it's not a voice note, it's a video, sorry. It's a video that Emily took of Amber Lynn speaking to her in a very like abusive way. And so Rachel analyzes this whole thing and like whatever. And I just think it's really hypocritical to make such a point in your video to be like, this is my private thing. If it gets shared without my consent, I'm gonna be really mad. To then posting a video of you reacting to a video that I believe was scattered around the internet without Emily's consent. Since you're so concerned about your own privacy, why do you not give a shit about anybody else's privacy in this entire conversation? Very weird, very odd choice to me. And that's just something I wanted to put in here. Sorry if I'm getting a little bit sassy or my period starts tomorrow. It is what it is. Okay, bye. I'll talk to you in a little bit. And again, in this conversation to try and get information and tea and receipts out of Emily, she refers to Emily a lot as a DV victim. And like she talks about Amber's exes as also DV victims and stuff like that. And again, it just makes me call into question like where her head was at if she viewed Emily as a DV victim, why she felt it was appropriate to flirt with her to try and get this information. Personally. At the end of the video, she talks about Gorlworld kind of as a whole, and she talks about how she feels like a lot of creators and people who watch Gorlworld content take Gorlworld very personally. And she says that she doesn't feel like she does that.
It's pretty clear that somebody who was in that initial Discord basically was mad at me because I said that I didn't like other content creators or I thought their content wasn't very good. And, you know, we're all allowed opinions, right? That's what the internet's here for. If I think somebody's content is mid and I say it, that's what I said. That's my opinion. And there you go. I'm not going to backtrack on my opinion just because you guys have all seen me say it, right? I think that this has shown that certain people take Gorlworld very, very, very personally. To me, that's not what this is. This isn't personal, you know, I'm reporting and talking and covering on what's going on. This is something I do that makes me money. And also it's something I find very interesting. If someone doesn't like my content, that's completely fine. We're all allowed to have opinions, right? I don't think we need to be attacking other creators and sharing the faces, names and voices of private individuals during that process.
I'm sorry, like just from an outsider's perspective and someone who does make Gorlworld content, the second you offer to pay someone in the quote unquote drama that you're talking about for more information, and then you start flirting with them on top of that to try and get more information, that makes it personal to me. Like if I did that, I would consider myself personally invested in this. That's maybe just a me thing. I know that we're not the same person, but like to me, that just feels personal. And she also talks about at the end of this video how she likes when people disagree with her.
I love when people disagree with me. One of the biggest markers of me knowing that somebody is a real friend of mine is that they will say to me, you're wrong about that. And I'll be like, oh geez, am I? And that's one thing about my degree is when you study philosophy, you realize that if you live in an echo chamber where you don't take in any new information, you're never willing to consider changing your mind because you don't get any new information, right? That's one thing that I don't do as a person. I genuinely don't. If you want to give me information, I will listen.
And I'm only really bringing this up to be petty for like 1 second because she brings up her degree in philosophy to like support her reasoning as to why she likes when people disagree with her. And through my like researching this video and gathering all of the shit that happened, I came across like some compilations of her consistently bringing up her degree in philosophy.
Just to give you some background on me, if you've not seen my videos before, I have a philosophy degree, and my degree is literally how to not be convinced by crappy arguments. What Amber says here is objectively untrue. First of all, I have a first-class degree in philosophy, a large part of which is literally the study of how to think. My college timetable was double religious studies and then a philosophy class from 2 to 4 p.m, which I resented massively because I just wanted to go home and play GTA 5 with my boyfriend. Times have really changed. And I have it too, especially with my philosophy studies. What is good? How do we know if we're doing something good? My credentials for critiquing this series are 1 creative writing module during my philosophy degree. Being as I am a philosophy nerd and a Gorlworld connoisseur, self-declared, I wasn't going to mention that, but I'm a philosophy grad, so I feel like I kind of have to. But the point is, and I'm more agnostic / spiritual questioning, you could say. I'm a philosophy student, so when am I not questioning? During my time at university, I studied both formal and informal logic. I sometimes joke that I have a first-class degree in arguing because that is a lot of what philosophy is. I've said this a million times, but I'm a philosophy graduate.
And I have a degree, okay? I have an art degree. It's a graphic design degree. I'm a full-time graphic designer, okay? And I went to a liberal arts university, so I studied a lot of things, such as philosophy and a lot of other shit too. So before you come at me for going to art school, I also learned a lot of other stuff. It always just makes me like chuckle when people bring up their degree into conversations where like it generally doesn't matter, make it seem like they know more about what they're talking about, because you can be educated, but that doesn't mean you're smart. That doesn't mean you're smart about moving around the world. That doesn't mean you're smart in all of the choices you make ever, which like same, okay, I'm not like putting myself up on a pedestal here by any means. I just need to be pet because for me this reminded me a lot of Young Dumb Honey Bun. Haven't heard that name in years, who would always bring up that she was a psychologist and all of that, and like,
baby girl, I'm in med school. I work full time. I have a degree. I have a whole ass beautiful man by my side. I have a family that loves me. We all take care of each other. We love each other. My skin is clear. My makeup is flawless. I am living my best life. My hair is growing. I smell like coconut oil. I am living my best life. And now I will go further. I will go beyond the superficial, beyond what the eye can see. I am an educated woman. I am an educated immigrant woman who has came here with no language, who is now speaking 2 languages fluently, who has a career, who has ambitions and goals in life. Regardless of the coinage that I make on YouTube of your name, I have a successful life.
I just think it's interesting in the context of Gorlworld, okay? When you are not actually analyzing Gorlworld and the things that are happening through the lens of whatever you're educated on, when you just bring it up as like a way to be like, well, I have a degree in philosophy, or I have a degree in psychology, like, and then you just start talking about gossip. I don't know. To me, there's a difference between using your degree to actually critically analyze something and to just bring it up to make it seem like you're smarter than everybody else. And that's kind of the vibe that I got. And as a university educated woman with a degree also, I just felt the need to put that in here. And I'm being petty for 1 minute. Thank you for humoring me. Anyway, in this video, at the end of this video, at the very end, okay, she finally admits, flat out, she says, I fumbled a lot of things, fucked a lot of things up. And I'm like, I feel like that could have been at the beginning, not like an hour in, but at least she said it, and to that, I will give her credit. Hi, Editing Megan coming back in one more time here because I'm about to get into like my final thoughts on everything. And since I filmed this, a lot of like, or if not all of the creators that were involved in the original group chat that Rachel was in on Discord have all come out and like given some explanations or defended themselves, made statements, whatever, made videos about the situation. And a lot of them weren't very effective either, kind of like Rachel's video. I think a lot of them are being given the same amount of criticism as a lot of people are also giving to Rachel, which I don't necessarily think is fair, but I do think their responses also contribute to like the overall conversation surrounding Gorlworld that I'm about to have. Let me know if you want me to make like a follow-up video concerning all the other creators that were involved in this, but again, I really think that Rachel is like the main perpetrator here, and that was why I made this video at all. But yeah, let me know if you want me to make a follow-up video on the other creators involved or whatever, because I do think it lends itself to a bigger conversation. I do know that Zachary Michael put out a video about this and all of the other regarding all of the other creators, and I haven't watched it yet, but it's about like moral high grounds and things like that in Gorlworld, and I think that's a really interesting topic. But yeah, let me know if you want that, but this video was made just to cover Rachel, but there were other creators involved as everything played out. Okay, bye! And so with my thoughts regarding all this, I kind of already have given a lot of them. I know Amberlynn has responded to a lot of this. That will be in the 2025 history lesson. I just needed to get this synopsis of this whole situation out first so I can refer people to it in the history lesson, so I don't have to talk about all of this in the history lesson, okay? Overall, I think this was just, like Rachel said, pretty shitty, and she made a lot of questionable decisions, and honestly, I think the paying for information on its own was enough to talk about in a video like this on my end. But then when I saw the flirting aspect of it and I started like thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's icky. And I think the fact that that's like the one thing in her video that she stood like 10 toes down on being okay with, I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe some more reflection, personally. Not trying to tell you how to live. Personally, I think it's kind of weird. Is Emily perfect? Absolutely not. No, okay? But at the same time, were you manipulating who you considered to be a DV victim? Yes. And is that okay in my mind? No. And Zachary Michael kind of came out of their hiatus of making Gorlworld content to talk about this whole situation. And I think they made a really good point in saying that, like, the thing about making Amberlynn Reid content and talking about how shitty of a person Amberlynn Reid is you don't need to pay for any of this, any of that information. You don't need to pay for things to bolster these arguments. You don't need to dig that hard because Amber always tells on herself. Whether like it's just a guarantee. Like in my first history lesson about Amberlynn, pretty much all of the examples I gave about her and how awfully she treated Beck during their relationship came from her channel. Like they're on her channel. So you don't even have to dig that hard, really, because you will find examples of all of this. All of this was just very unnecessary on Rachel's part, or to get that information. I think this whole thing started a whole different conversation on Gorlworld and reaction channels and commentary channels as a whole who solely focus on Amberlynn, because I know I make Amberlynn Reid content, okay? I'm not immune from that. I think as a figure that I have watched for a very long time, she's fascinating. And I think just given the lore around it, like I'm not immune to being fascinated by that, okay? Or being interested in talking about that. While all of this was really shitty on Rachel's part, I don't think it is a Rachel specific thing, because as Gorlworld has progressed, we have seen reaction and commentary channels who are primarily focused on Amberlynn Reid, like contacting family members and calling clinics and vets and stuff to like try and get more information. And like, we've just seen this like natural progression of like invading this person's life, which like Amberlynn sucks. Okay. I don't like Amberlynn. But like also at the same time, I do think the community takes things way too far a lot of the time. And I think the reason that is it's really easy to get lost in the sauce of like how well Gorlworld, Amberlynn Reid adjacent content performs. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, some of the best performing videos on my channel are about Amberlynn Reid, okay? Some of the most money I've made on YouTube came from Amberlynn Reid videos. For me also, I just genuinely like the discourse that happens surrounding it. And also, I'm the only one in my life that takes in all of this content, and I need to talk about it. I need to yap about it. And I'm very fortunate to have this platform to do that with an audience who will yap back at me, and also doubly, triply, infinitely fortunate that I make an income from it. And I'm not saying this to like put me on a pedestal above everybody else, because at the end of the day, I do make gossip videos about this stuff, okay? But I will never, like Zachary mentioned, offer to pay someone for information, flirt with someone, manipulate someone in that way to get information. I won't reach out to family members. And that's where I think the line should be drawn, and it's continuously just crossed by a lot of Gorlworld commentary creators. And that if I only talked about Amberlynn Reid and Gorlworld adjacent things, like specifically with Amberlynn, that's such a negative space to be in. And I'm not surprised that it gets to this point of contacting people actually in Amberlynn's life or wherever, in places she has gone. And I'm not surprised it gets to that point, because especially on like online forums and stuff, people are nuts. Okay. That's like normal behavior. As a person, you're like, that's not normal. I don't know this person. Why am I this invested? And I don't know if any of this is making sense, but I just think the line has like the goalpost of what is okay and what is seen as normal is constantly being shifted when it comes to Amberlynn. And this is not me defending Amberlynn by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think the community takes it too far sometimes. I don't know. I just think this whole thing kind of opened up a wider conversation of just how much certain reaction and commentary channels and like forums and stuff like that are all surrounding Amberlynn, just how much they push the limits and the boundaries of like what is okay to do and what's not. But in case you missed all of this stuff with Rachel, that's what you missed on Glee. I wanted to just talk about this in a separate video before the Gorlworld history lesson came out. So then when I get to this point in the history lesson, I could be like, go watch that video if you don't know what happened to Rachel. And then I can just keep on going because there's already so much shit in that video. Oh my God. Leave a money emoji down below. Anyone you want. That feels relevant. The video wasn't really made to like send hate to Rachel at all. It's just my view on everything that happened and also just kind of a general rundown for people who may be out of the loop. Rachel said she's going to keep making Amberlynn content. More power to you, girlfriend. Just maybe don't do any of this stuff again because it's kind of weird. And remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, drink your water, take your meds if you need them, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.